Welcome to the man cave, and as you can see, this is a proper man cave because it's dirty and probably should use a fresh coat of paint. Anyway, I am here because I want to play a bit with my Chinese toy, which is a Sensah derailleur, because it's been sitting in storage for the last 2 weeks because it's been sitting in storage for the last 2 weeks because I didn't have an opportunity to ride it because I was struck by a car, so I spent a week at home. Anyway, I'm well now, and before you ask, there is no heating here and the temperature outside is below freezing, so I have to get dressed for the occasion. Anywho, this is my mountain bike, and I have, as you can see, am I really pointing at the right thing? Okay, alright. As you can see, this is not the stuff. Oh, take a look. This is not the stuff I'm trying to test, but this is going to show me a little baseline of what I should expect. This is a 10-speed Shimano Z. This is an 1123 rear cassette Ultegra. Up there's a Shimano Saint front shifter, and let's see how this works. This should work really miserably because this is a single pivot derailleur, so when the cage reaches the highest cog, there's going to be massive distance between the guide pulley and the biggest cog, so even if it works well now, it's going to work really badly once some chain wear goes into the drivetrain, and there's going to be much more sloppy. Anyway, let's see how this performs. I just put it together. You can see already that there's going to be a problem with this, but overall it doesn't seem to be very bad, and that's because just about everything about this drivetrain is new. So there's a new chain, almost new cassette, new cable, new housing, and almost new derailleur. This works fine, however, as I said before, once there's a sufficient chain wear, so the chain gets sloppy side to side, you're going to see a degradation of shifting to the highest cogs, because the Shimano Z derailleur, this is the freeride version, is meant for cassettes as big as this one. That's an 1132, and not 1123. Anyway, let's change my derailleur to the Sensah. Alright, I took down the Z. This is my Chinese wonder. There's one tip I have to show to you. My Z shifted better than it should have because I am using a guide pulley from a different Shimano derailleur. It's the cheapest upgrade you can make because those tall teeth help with guiding the chain to the cog when you shift gears, and normally Z's don't have this one. It's the cheapest upgrade you can make, and it works just about any derailleur, Shimano derailleur there is, and those things cost, I don't know, $5 maybe. Anyway, this is my Chinese wonder. Let's mount it to the bike. Okay. One thing before I mount this everything, my initial result might not be very good because my chain is, wait, there's a cage lock here, so I just might use it, because my chain is sized for a derailleur with a short cage, and this one has a long cage, so there's a difference in position from the optimal to what I'm gonna get. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, shifting is dependent on the position of the cage. Alright, let's cage unlock here. There you go. This is going to shift incredibly bad, and I haven't even connected to the shifter. I have to do some adjustments before I try it, so see you in the next edit. Okay, I did some basic adjustments to the derailleur. I'm not going to get any better position. Let me tell you and show you why chain length is important. Derailleurs. Okay, alright. Derailleurs work the way they do because they manage to keep the distance between the guide pulley, the upper one, and the cassette, or the cog on the cassette, in a very narrow range of lengths. If it's too short, then the shifting is much clumsier, and there's a problem with jumping from one cog to the other because the guide pulley tries to stop the chain from going to the other cog through all the systems that are used to guide the chain to the other cog. On the other hand, if there is too much distance between the guide pulley and the cog that this has the chain shifted to it, then the flexibility of the chain will prevent the chain from meshing with all those cuts and embossments that are used to guide the chain to that cog. So, because this cage has an offset to the pulley, the angular position of the cage changes the position of the pulley in regard to the cog. And this position is probably meant for something in the middle, because if you saw on the Z, the cage would be in this position as I'm currently showing you. Then the pulley would be closer to the pulley on this derailleur is going to be closer to the cassette. And I think I'm going to try to lengthen the chain a bit so it's actually optimal for this kind of derailleur. Alright, using the always reliable method of use 2 extra links, like here. Here we go. Use two extra chain links to lengthen the chain. I did just that. I think this is a better position for the cage. And there's already, let's call it a problem. You see, there is supposed to be a what's it called? Clutch. There's supposed to be a clutch here, but there is pretty much no tension. And okay, that's fine, although I don't see a lever to adjust it or turn it on or off like you can do in the Shimano stuff. However, if I adjust it to the maximum tension there is obviously tension on the cage at a certain point, but there's a little slop here, and that slop frankly worries me because it's kind of, stop banging on my bike. That's kind of, tension is kind of the point of the clutch, and apparently in this cage position there simply isn't any. There is now, so it's kind of in the middle of the cassette. Now it's stiff, but in the gear that you probably want most tension, there is pretty much none. You have to have this cage in this position. So I'll have to shorten the chain. Alright, let's shorten the chain. It's going to be problematic, but it's possible to do. So if I shorten the chain, that's obviously going to solve the issue with the really poor chain tension, but obviously it's going to, now it holds very tightly. It's going to make the trajectory of the guide wheel a bit worse than it should be. Here you go. Now this is still sloppy. Not impressed, Mr. Sensah, or people at Sensah, not impressed. All clutch derailleur have a little slop when it comes to the clutch, but this is most I've seen as yet. Although it seems to do its job. Anyway, let's hook the cable. I'm still going to be using my Saint shifter. I've obviously frayed the cable because I'm an idiot. But alright. If you watched my unboxing video, I told everyone, or shown everyone, that there's this little pulley here. There you go. Is it visible? Yeah. There's a pulley here to guide the cable through, and I like this very much because it allows to not route the cable right into the spokes like you do on the Shimano derailleurs, but to the bottom and to the upper part of the parallelogram linkage, which is obviously superior, but I predicted that it's going to make guiding the cable to this cable stop a literal nightmare, and I'm going to get to know why you do that, whether I was right or not. Okay. There's even little guide here on the other side for the excess cable to go out, which is a nice little touch, and I like it very much. I'm almost a poet now. Right. And as I said, it is awful. It's an effective method of routing the cable, but really annoying to mount it. I hate you. Thankfully, I think I've got another one, so I don't need to let go of this cable. No, I don't have another one. Sucks to be me. I've got my wrench back after a few moments of struggling with my incompetence. So let's have fun. Alright. Now we're cooking with gas. Is that what you tell in the States? Does anyone do that anymore? Anyway, here you go. So, test number 1. Is it compatible with 10-speed Shimano shifters? Apparently, it isn't. But I'm still using a cassette. It's not supposed to shift properly, so I'm still undecided on this one. And as I said before, not this one, this one. As I said before, it's almost impossible to make a single pivot derailleur like this one fine on both road and big range mounting cassettes. It's almost impossible to make a derailleur at all that's going to work properly on these, but with single pivots like modern derailleurs it's almost impossible. Anyway, I'm almost there. It's almost shifting to the smallest cock properly. This shows promise. But at certain point we're hitting a wall where it simply won't shift, but that's expected. It's a derailleur meant for big range cassettes, so it's not going to work on these gears. As you can see, the gap between the upper guide pulley and the chain, the cog here is massive, so there's not going to be good shifting getting out of this setup. So let's try something else. Alright then, I have lengthened the chain and replaced the cassette with something more fitting to the type of derailleur we're dealing with here. This is an 1136 Shimano something. And I lengthened the chain because obviously it didn't solve the problem of the clutch, so why do it? And this way I'm going to get a better trajectory of the guide wheel. Anyway, after adjusting it for a few minutes, this is my result, and I don't think I can get any better than this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is the best we can get out of it. And the 10th gear is essentially inaccessible, which leads me to believe that this derailleur is not compatible with Shimano's system. Obviously I can't blame it, because I haven't had this promised. And if I pay attention too much, it stops shifting on me. As you can see, this is completely unworkable. But I'm using a 10-speed shifter from Shimano, so I shouldn't be surprised. Alright, I replaced the shifter with the original one from Sensah. As you can see, there's a new cable here. I'll show you the shifter. Here it is. As you can see, it's beautiful. It's plastic and aluminum, not way too much plastic in my opinion, but whatever, not like Shimano is any better. I can't tell much for SRAM because I don't have any of their shifters. Anyway, you will quickly note that after a few moments I spent adjusting this, it already works much better. Than with Shimano. So definitely there's some sort of incompatibility between those two systems. I can't say whether this is compatible with SRAM because I don't have any equipment by SRAM, but this is definitely much better than previously. Alright, since a few days have passed and since I recorded the last clip for this video, and in the meantime I've gotten myself this beautiful 11 speed cassette, XT I believe. I think it is XT, I don't really know, and frankly I don't really care. They're all the same. Except for weight maybe. Anyway, I've gotten some miles on this thing, and since this is 11 speed, now I have completely native driveline. So I'm gonna show to you how does it work. Because frankly, it works pretty well. No complaints here. However, after some riding I noticed just how bad the clutch is, or lack thereof. See this? Every clutched derailleur has a little bit of slop here, because that's how roller clutches, which is something that's inside here, work. They always have a little bit of play in them before they engage. However, this is excessive. This is so much that frankly you can consider this derailleur to be completely without a clutch, and this problem persists regardless of gear. Let me show you. Now, right, I'm in the highest gear, lowest gear. So obviously I have most chain tension here, and as you can see, there's still quite a bit of slop here. That's really bad. That's frankly I can't consider this derailleur to be fitting for anyone who's riding serious mountain, because this excessive slop coupled with no chain device here, no chain device on the chainring, and long cage is going to make this drivetrain rather droppy. Alright then, I rode the Sensah derailleur and shifter set for about 25-30 kilometers, so I have some initial impressions, and in order not to forget any of them, I have a cheat sheet. Anyway, obviously this isn't a thorough review, because for that you'll have to wait 2 or 3 months, so I have some mileage on those things. However, my initial impressions are mixed at best. So let's start with the good things. Shifting quality. This derailleur set feels like a high-end Shimano, so that's good. The lever throw on the shifter is rather short, and there is none of that springy feeling you have when you're using a lower-end Shimano like SRX or derailleur, so that's fine. The downshifting requires a little bit of braking force, and that's good because that prevents accidental shifts. So I kind of like it. It feels like, as I said before, a high-end Shimano, so XT, XTR level, so good. However, that's something to say about the shifter. As with all clutched derailleurs, especially top normal ones, each shift when you're going up the block feels harder than the previous one, and the Sensah is fairly bad at this point, because it feels like not as bad as 9-speed Shimano shadow shifters, which were terrible in that department, but it's certainly harder than XT or derailleur or SRX, which I have. So something that it doesn't shine, it's just average. 2 little gimmicks about this derailleur are some things which I like, which is a cage lock, something you SRAM people know, and I didn't, and I really like it because it makes wrenching on the bike really easy. And I really like the cable routing. That little pulley that routes the cable away from the spokes is pretty nifty, and I think it's going to solve the problem of cables getting fried, which is something that Shimano derailleurs, the shadow derailleurs, get non-stop. However, it's an open question how will that work once it gets some proper amount of dirt and mud through it. So it's after all a pulley, so we'll see. Now this wasn't promised to me in the product sheet, so I can't complain really, but this derailleur isn't really compatible with Shimano, as you saw in my attempts to mount it to a 10-speed Shimano shifter, which is something that would work perfectly fine with Shimano 11 speed. So it didn't work, so it's not compatible. I have to cross-check this with an 11-speed Shimano shifter as well, because I have to be sure. After all, I could have botched something with the adjustments. However, I don't think I did. I don't have any SRAM equipment to cross-check with that, so maybe it is compatible with SRAM. And I'm noticing this because obviously if you break the shifter, you are essentially done with the derailleur as well, so you're $100 you're losing $100. And now for something that essentially breaks this product for me, which is the clutch and this excessive slope it has before it actually engages. Frankly, that makes this derailleur probably useless for anyone who wants to ride in hard mountains or something excessive like gravity riding or something like that, because the amount of chain slope, which I already witnessed on this derailleur, and I just rode for, as I said before, 25-30 kilometers, is much higher than I'm used to. But I've been riding with a short cage or even medium cage derailleurs for some time now, so maybe I'm biased, but it feels like something that isn't clutched at all. So that's, I don't know, maybe it's just my derailleur which is defective or something like that, because I don't think it's supposed to work like that. And if it did, I would like to hear an explanation from the engineers from Sensah to tell me why does it work like that, because I don't think it should. It essentially breaks the product in its target use. Alright then, so in closing, my initial impression of this derailleur set is very mixed, to say the least, because once you operate it and change gears, switch gears, it works really well. However, once you get through the dirt and start riding something harder than smooth gravel or something like that, then you hear the excessive chain slope, because the clutch is so anemic in this thing. So I would probably give it to my wife, because she doesn't care. She's a perfect consumer for 1x drivetrains, because she just wants a shifter to click and have an easier or harder gear. But I don't think I'm going to be using it for a long time, because I'm just paranoid about losing chains, and just for that reason I'm riding short gauge derailleurs, even if it means I can't use the wide range cassettes. And that's about it, because I just can't say much good about something that feels like a beta version of software. It has all the interesting features you would expect from something in that price range, maybe except the weight, because it's rather heavy for the price range it's being sold at. However, it just doesn't work like something that you would expect from something that has those features installed. So, as I said, it's something like a beta version of software, and I will post you an update in about 3 to 4 months when I have some proper mileage on the Sensah derailleur set. However, my initial impressions, there are things to be fixed about this. There's a potential for it to be a very good and very solid product, but it's just not that yet. And with that in mind, thank you for your undivided attention, and see you on the next one.